The 11th of April 2007, Fulham, 15 places and 4 points off the drop zone. So who better to call upon than the man who'd always been able to motivate players and teams in their hour of need. Lawrie Sanchez took up the challenge as caretaker manager when the London club had axed their then manager Chris Coleman. Although he was still Northern Ireland's national coach and enjoying great success, Sanchez jumped at the chance to manage in the Premiership. Holding on to 2 jobs just wouldn't work though, so something had to give. However, was Sanchez right to walk out on Northern Ireland and focus solely on Fulham?
There was a lot of things working at the time. One, my contract was running out, and if I'd always said I'd do a 4-year tenure with Northern Ireland. You do 2 campaigns. I thought that was the natural tenure. I wasn't particularly the media in Northern Ireland myself. Had difficulties, which I thought would be exasperated if we didn't qualify. There was an opportunity in the Premier League, and I'd always wanted to work there. I mean, I'd been assistant to Joe in the Premier League when I was at Fulham, at Wimbledon previously, and I wanted to get there. It's the league where everybody wants to manage. Without doubt, the financial implications as a manager being there are far in excess. You've seen that with Walter Smith in Scotland. You've seen it with Alex McLeish leaving Scotland. Both managers left Scotland to come to, one to Rangers, the other one to the Premier League. So all those things came into consideration, and I didn't think when I would get another opportunity to have a clean slate. It was the end of the season, and whatever people say about my time at Fulham, I was brought in to keep them up, and I kept them up. That was the job I was paid to do. I was subsequently then offered the job. Now, my major mistake, and it is a major mistake, is what I should have said was I will only take the job on the basis that I can finish the campaign with Northern Ireland. And if I have one regret in my footballing career, it's that I wasn't strong enough and didn't say that. There was previous issues with Kevin Keegan and Fulham, and I don't think, if I'd have said that, I wouldn't have had the job, basically. So the job was, do you want the job or do you want to do Northern Ireland? And I thought it was a natural progression. I mean, anybody at the time, I've spoken to other managers, said you couldn't have turned it down. It was a natural progression. But there was a lot of other things in the background that were going on that also influenced me towards it. But as I say, the error was saying, well, no, let me carry on and finish the campaign. Because I could have done it at the end of the day. I could have done it when those games were on. I took a break, and I thought, the first one in when they went away and lost a double header to Iceland Latvia, I went away and I thought I should really be running the national team this weekend. And it would have been fantastic. I think it would have been fantastic I think there'd have been a lot of synergies both for club and thing. But when they own you at the top level, they want you 24/7. They expect to own you 100%.
Well, you've found out the hard way. You've done what you set out to do at Fulham. First season, and then there you are. You've brought your Northern Ireland players in. You've gone off to Hong Kong for a big glamorous pre-season tournament, but a combination of injuries and whatever else happened, the season hasn't started well. But could you have imagined how on earth you found yourself involved in what they horribly call the sack race so quickly?
Well, it's strange, isn't it? I mean, as we're talking at this moment in time, after 10, 11 games played, we're actually higher than they are at this moment in time. The perception was, though, that what the problem was, we were competitive for 80 minutes, but we couldn't finish games off for whatever reason. I don't think I really got my head around why. There were poor refereeing decisions, without doubt. There were poor defending decisions from some of the players, and the culmination of that, wins which we should have won, we drew. And ultimately, as in the Premier League, if you've got 1 or 2 or more of those wins, I'd like to think I've still been there.
Fulham's 2007-2008 season did not start well. The Cottagers lost their skipper, Brian McBride, amongst other key players, to injury. The lack of a killer instinct and frailties at the back resulted in them slipping into another relegation battle. Despite having signed several players, including 4 from his Northern Ireland team, Sanchez and company got closer and closer to trouble as Christmas approached. The fans turned against him. And the man whom many had thought could perform Houdini acts, this time was running out of tricks. He wasn't able and wasn't given enough time to conjure up one more escape act. So, looking back on it all some 10 months after his sacking, Sanchez clearly recalls the events that led to his departure from Craven Cottage.
Well, this is probably that Middlesbrough game in hindsight. I mean, we were leading Arsenal first day of the season 6 minutes ago at the Emirates, and the fact that we didn't close that off was an indication of it's a mental strength. Like I said, when Northern players, you have to go through several doors to get to where you want to go. And going through the England door was a massive one for the players. For thereafter, we could beat anybody. We could beat anybody. If we'd have been Arsenal that first day, 6 minutes to go, we're leading 1-0 there. David Healy scores first 13 seconds into the game. It would have been a massive, massive thing for the players to suddenly, because they'd never beaten Arsenal away ever in their history, and that would have been a fantastic thing to achieve. We didn't, but Healy gets his goal. We played Bolton on the Tuesday night. Healy scores again, 2 goals in 2 games. I mean, people are saying, you know, you're the Zaki of the day. On the Middlesbrough game, the 3rd game, Brian McBride dislocates his kneecap in scoring. Nobody near him, just a freak accident of nature. The big front man that was to play alongside Dave Healy goes. It's, 26th, 27th of August, you know, the deadline closes 3 days later. The man that you're thinking, well, those two are starting to feel a combination. David Healy actually scores a goal in the last minute of that game to equalise the game, a yard over the line that's not given by the linesman. Badly, you know, they hold his hands up and say, David Healy has 3 goals in the first week of the season, and we're you know, a win, a draw and a defeat in the first 3 games. We subsequently then played 4 or 5 games and we drew games. You know, goals were conceded in the last minutes. You know, we mullered Sunderland and Kenwyne Jones scores with 10 minutes to go. We mullered Wigan and Buatsa gives a penalty away with 10 minutes to go. And just the series of get over the line didn't happen. And then, you know, they started sacking Premier League managers. There's a feeding frenzy. When there isn't players being able to move, the only one that can move is the manager. And without regard, the press jump on it. There isn't so much a feeding frenzy this year, which is good for the managers in there. But you know, there was a feeding frenzy. I was the second last one to go. Sam went the week after me, or 2 weeks after me, and then transfer window came. They'd give the managers in charge money, and they had to see him through to the end of the season.
Lawrie Sanchez was given the axe on the 21st of December 2007. He became the 7th Premier League manager to be shown the door that season. So how to get back in? Given the intense pressure and often unrealistic expectations that arise from clubs' huge cash investments in the Premier League, is it ever possible for a manager to overcome failure and try again?
No, and you look around and I see Graham Souness and you see David O'Leary who've been out 3-4 years. When I got the sack, I said to my brother, I'm going to be a year out at least. You know, that's it. That's the way it is in the world. The second season is, you know, have that frenzy before Christmas, and people who get there by Christmas are able to spend the money, so they see through that manager to the end of the season. There'll be a little bit of change over the summer, but it's the following Christmas time where the second season starts before the window again, and you hope to get in then, but there's no guarantee in getting in. It is when you're outside. It's funny. I did a talk to the league managers course at Warwick on their graduation certificates in May last year, and I said, you know, look at me. In the previous May, I was an international manager, top international manager, and I was a manager that saved the Premier League club. I was both of those at this time last year. Now I ain't got a job, and that is I'm a good indication of what you're getting yourself into.
Sanchez knows fully well the inherent uncertainty of the profession he has embraced both as a player and as a manager, and it's not something he would want to jump straight back into.
I've got to say, it took me a while to get over Fulham. I mean, you have to have discussions or fight or whatever you want to get what your contractual obligations, that's sorted and that's all done and dusted now. And so you have that fight, and that concentrates your mind to a certain extent. And also, it's a knockback. And anybody says it isn't, it's a massive knockback to you. I mean, I'd had 3 years of continuous success at Northern Ireland. I'd done the first part of my job, which was keep Fulham up in the Premier League, and I'd had 4 months. And probably of that 4 months, the only time I was in real danger was the last month, where we had a series of fixtures where I think we played Liverpool away, Man United away, Blackburn at home and Everton away. And a last-minute penalty that took us into the bottom 3 for the first time that season has cost you your job. And, you know, it is a shock to your system when you are on the outside looking in. And it does take you time to get your head right. And I think if you go straight back into a job, I think perhaps it can be therapeutic for certain people, but I think for me, you need to step away and have a look and see what you wanted to do.
Stepping back from it all, he did. But what are Sanchez's plans for the future? Does he want to concentrate on trying at national team level again, or as a Premier League coach?
It's strange, isn't it? At this moment in time, I'm an ex-international, ex-Premier League manager. I mean, it is where you come back in again, and I think to a certain extent that is a little bit out of your hands. I mean, you do set standards of where you want to work. With the greatest respect, I wouldn't want to go back and work at this moment in time in the bottom division of football, which I did as a starting manager. There are, you know, obviously international jobs come available. You do think, well, would you like to go back and do something there? I'm very open at this moment in time. I mean, I'd like, you're obviously aiming high at this moment in time. Your expectations lower as the longer you're out of work. But I'd like to think that, you know, I've been a manager 13 years and bar 4 months, I've been reasonably successful. The trouble is, it is a brutal profession once you're out of it, and you can't say where or when you cease. So you do sit out, you do your media work, you do go to conferences. I'm on the executive of the LMA, so I get about and do bits and pieces on that. But come a Saturday, when you're watching someone else making decisions, that's what I do. We have to be miracle workers, that's what we're employed for. You know, people don't want managers, they want miracle workers, because when you get a job, they want you to create a miracle there. I've been fortunate in my time that, you know, I've had some, you know, made some miracles happen. I'm hope and I'm sure that I'll make some happen in the future. But at this moment in time, I've got to be realistic and say, well, I'm not picking a team, therefore I can't make them happen. I somehow need to get hold of a team and show people what I can do again.
Lawrie Sanchez has been battle-hardened by his experiences in the game he sometimes refers to as a brutal profession. He may well be back in football by the time you watch this interview, but if he is, he'll have gone in with his eyes wide open.